today I wanted to share some of the ways that I went from being very floaty to being very disciplined. Okay, for context, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 19. And I would say if I had to diagnose like a certain type, I definitely have always had sort of inattentive type ADHD. Okay, I was always in class, I was always like the doodler. I've always been someone who's off in my own daydreams. You know, I've I feel like I'm sort of like I can be really clumsy because I'm not really paying attention to what's in my hands. I feel like that was like I guess that's always been sort of my personality is I always had a bit of a flirty I always had a bit of a floaty daydreaming personality. I was always someone who admired really consistent people. Like I admired people who could keep routines or people who were very put together, but I never saw that as myself. I wanted to be that so badly and it I would get frustrated because I just couldn't do it. I felt like I couldn't do it and I always felt like a little bit of a mess. But I did kind of get my stuff together, my life together. Um and I feel like I just wanted to kind of compile some of the things that I've done in recent years. Maybe just to sort of like consolidate it into one place for the memes to remember myself later and hopefully, I've gotten even further. But yeah, I think the other thing that I was thinking about today is that very often I think the kind of people that make and share like self-help content are men, white men. And that is no diss, okay? I am not beefing with them. I think they make sometimes amazing content. I think we all listen to it. Everyone loves like Atomic Habits. I think that's like, you know, great book. People give great advice, but I think that sometimes there's just maybe a little bit of an element missing because I think that sometimes the advice that we hear in those kinds of podcasts are very like not including Atomic Habits. There's great books, but I think a lot of the time the kind of motivational speakers that you hear they have they have a very masculine take on self-help that is very much about like just get over it, just do it, like you have to get up every day and do it, like it's not about it's not about motivating yourself. Discipline is about just getting it done. And I think that as a someone, I don't know, I guess as a woman, as somebody who experienced other challenges in life, I think that when I was trying to live my life using that advice and trying to find discipline that way, it did not work for me. And I think that it just led to a spiral of self hate. And I think that maybe I had a little bit of a feminine approach to how I developed discipline that really worked for me. And not even trying to put it on a binary or anything like that. But I think it you'll see. I think that sometimes there's just room for other types of advice if that advice isn't really resonating for people. And I think especially sometimes for people with ADHD, neurodivergent people, the advice doesn't work so well, So this is just my take. Okay, I think my first thought is that becoming a more disciplined or more put together person is a self-love journey. I think that you cannot approach discipline from the point of view of self-hate. I think that it is a self-love journey, and I think that in that sense it's a very creative journey. And I think that once I started to approach discipline as a creative process and finding discipline in my life as a creative process, it just clicked for me, and I think that I was able to go further with it rather than feeling like I needed to fit a mold of what a disciplined person looked like or what discipline looked like in my life. So I think that's the fun of it. It's very individual. I don't think there's a one size fits all approach to becoming a disciplined person. I think that I think it's about unpacking yourself, unpacking what that means to you, how that fits into your life. So that's kind of the basis that I wanted to enter like this conversation with, is that I think that it is a journey of finding yourself and a journey of self-love. It's not just a thing that you do. Like it's not a science, it's not, anything. Like you have to find it for yourself. So my first piece of advice is that you have to start to define what you want versus what you need. I think that when you feel like you're not a disciplined person and you're looking at people who are disciplined, I think especially with social media now, things end up like converging and everybody's sharing their advice. And I think that people end up sort of um adopting elements of each other's discipline and each other's routines. And so then I think that people, myself included, start to look up to these people who are disciplined, and you start to think that you need to sort of do what they're doing to be that. And I think that then you end up trying to force yourself to do things that do not make sense for you and are just not aligned with your life. Um, and so I'm gonna go into that a bit more, but I think that that's sort of like the first thing to notice is that like I think that I think that the first step is to sort of determine what is important to you and what do you actually enjoy doing, because I think that so often like the advice that we give about discipline has to do with forcing yourself to get up at 5 in the morning, get up and go to the gym, like go take a long run, like like all of these crazy things that it's like they don't interest like they even though like they are disciplined things, they don't that doesn't mean you have to do them. And if you're gonna wake up and you're gonna force yourself to do something every morning, it's not gonna work. Like you are not gonna be able to force yourself to do something that you hate, like in the long run. But the point is that like we have limited amounts of time every day, every week. Why are you forcing yourself to do something that you hate every day or something that doesn't make sense for you when there's countless options of things that you can do that you're going to love, that you're going to want to do every day? And I think that so often, like, that's why, what did I mean by I think that sometimes the advice ends up a bit masculine and it didn't fit for me of like, just get up, just do it. But it's like, I don't want to do that. So why would I do that? And I think so often we go for things that we think we need, but I think that you can have things that you need but also want. So I think like the most important like first step is just to go out and get inspired. Think about like what is important to you, like what is genuinely like fitness, being fit or like moving my body consistently. We all know that's important. It's important to me. I wanted to do that, okay? Or like for example, being healthy. Everybody wants to be healthy. I think that's a great thing to like base your routine off of. But I think from that sort of like, from the basics of what you care about, I want to get my work done on time and have a good life. I want to improve at this thing. What are the things that are important to you? I think is the first thing to sit with, because I think so often we just jump into the idea of like being disciplined and it doesn't really make sense for us. And like, so I think and then from that point like just explore. Like you don't have to stick to like the typical avenues of what, if you're getting inspired about your habits, what you want to do every day, there's a million ways to be healthy. Like there's not a one way to be healthy. There's a million. I love, for example, I think like my health journey only improved when I started getting interested in herbalism. Ever since I was a kid, I loved like witchcraft and like, like in like a cutesy way. But I think like I always loved like, like witches, fairies, magic, potions. So I love like when I got older and I learned about herbalism, I loved it. Like I started to be really interested in that. I started to make herbal tea for myself and it's good. It's got minerals. It's got, that was interesting to me. Meanwhile, like for example, like something that would not be interesting to me is like taking like a bunch of like um random supplements. I don't hate supplements. I take some supplements, but there's people that are really into it. Like you've seen the videos on social media probably of people taking like 8,000 supplements. I'm not interested in like IV drips or like, like stuff like that. Like that is just not interesting to me, but it could be interesting to you. So it might not be, I'm not going to want to go do that. You see, so I think there's a million ways to be healthy. And it's just about finding the things that are interesting to you and that you're going to want to do. And I think that also like it's okay to find I think that a lot of people approach discipline as it has to be this joyless journey of just making yourself do things. It's not something you want, it's just something you have to do, and you have to get over it and do it. Very masculine advice that I think comes from these sorts of sources. And I think that's like, it's not fitting for me. Like, I want to do things that I enjoy. I want to do things I find aesthetic. If I find something aesthetic, like, I'm probably more likely to do it. And I know that's silly, but it's like I want to wake up and feel like I'm living a pretty little life. That's interesting to me. So if it's something that's gonna feel pretty to me or aligned with my aesthetic, I'm honestly more likely to do it. And that's fine. That doesn't make it worse. You know what I mean? Like, if I am eating food that fits like my aesthetic, things I enjoy, like, I'm gonna do it more. I like how herbal tea looks. I think it's pretty. Like, I like having all these beautiful dried flowers in my cabinet, and every time I open my cabinet, I see them and I feel happy, you know? And it's good for me. It's very healthy. So I think like, and I drink my herbal tea all the time. Like, not every day, which I'll go into later, but most days I drink it, you know? So I think it's stuff like that that's like finding things that are beautiful, aesthetic, aligned with you, fit your house, fit your life. There's certain things of like, you know, items and like that girl aesthetic and, you know, stuff like that. It's not gonna look cute in my room, so why would I buy it, you know? And you're gonna, if you find yourself doing things that you think you have to do or that you see on the internet, you're gonna have a home filled with things that you do not enjoy or things that you're not going to use, and then you're going to feel ashamed because you're not using the things and you're not interested in the things, but they don't fit you. That doesn't mean it's bad. um so yeah, and I think that I think, okay, I'm giving some examples here. Okay, so books I want to read versus books I need to read. I stopped reading consistently for a while, and I think that it was because I went through a transition where in high school I was like, I need to read like, and I actually enjoyed this more in high school, like, you got to read classics. Like, I wanted to read more classic literature and things like that, you know, books that were very like, even fiction that was very like critically acclaimed. But I got like to college, and for some reason I just stopped being so interested in fiction. And then I started to read nonfiction books about things that I'm interested in, and I started to find my consistency again. Like, I started to read books. I read a book about Ayurveda, like, I hope I said that right, like the Indian like holistic practice or like medical practice, I guess. Fascinating. I read that quick. I loved it. Like, I read about, you know, I like to read about politics. Reading about astrology right now. Like, there's I don't need, it doesn't need to be the critically acclaimed or like this esteemed thing to do. If you're not going to do it if you're not going to do it consistently because it's not interesting to you, you're just going to hate yourself and be like, why do I suck at reading? And you don't suck at reading, you're just not reading books that you like, okay? And you need to go out and find, it doesn't matter if you're going to read a trashy rom-com every day, you are reading every day. It doesn't matter. Like, just go out and get the fun book that you want to get. Like, it doesn't, and I think that if you keep forcing yourself down a path that you hate, you're going to think you're an undisciplined person forever, okay? And then here's another one. That girl aesthetic, I saw that as discipline, right? It's not my aesthetic. I don't like it. Okay? I If it's your aesthetic, I think I admire girls who can do all that. It's not my aesthetic at all, but I align with the values that I see in that girl. I like, you know, that it's about discipline and being clean, and you know, I like that. You know, that's cool. But it's just not my aesthetic. Like, I don't fit with like the Lululemon leggings, and like, you know, it doesn't match me. So if I was gonna try to do that thinking that that's what a disciplined girl looked like, which I think sometimes in the back of my mind I wanted to, it's not gonna work for me, and I'm gonna again think that I'm an undisciplined person or a dirty person, dirty girl. Sorry, I'm a dirty girl, I don't fit the clean girl aesthetic, because it's just not me. First of all, personally, I find it to be an identity built off of consumerism. You got to go out and get the Stanley. You got to go out and get, like, you know, all of these brands. I feel like Clean Girl is so much about brands, so much about, like, you got to get the red light mask, you got to get the skincare routine, and I couldn't afford it. So I'm not going to be able to keep up with it because it requires going out and buying a lot of things. And I think the trap that people fall into is they think, okay, so now I got to go out and buy all these things, but you do not need to go out and buy all those things. You can find your own version. And like, for me, it's too sterile. I don't like all the like just white and black, and like, it's too sterile for me. I like color. I like quirky, interesting things. I like art. Like, I like, you know, I want to also, I'm not going to eat avocado toast every day, even though I love avocado toast, but like, I like eating my cultural foods and like exploring that. Like, I like implementing aspects of my culture and it doesn't fit into the sterile that girl image. So I think, but finding things that are interesting and beautiful to me that I want to do every day is going to be better than trying to do things that I'm supposed to do every day. So I think that's like the first step is just get inspired and find what fits for your aesthetic and what you're going to want to do every day to say actually set yourself up to be consistent rather than setting yourself up to fail. This is so important to me, okay? This literally changed my life. Doing things every day, that's great, but it's so hard. Having a general tendency is amazing, okay? Like, I think if you have a tendency to be healthy, if you have a tendency to, let's say you have a tendency to eat really well, but you don't eat really well every day, you are still doing great. That is a great thing. If you have a tendency to eat badly, that sucks, but then and then you eat a good meal every once in a while, maybe that's not so great. But having a tendency to eat well is great. Having a tendency to read books is great. And I think that right now we are have this sort of like cultural fascination with doing things every day. Like every day you have the same morning routine. You wake up again, waking up at 5 a.m. I wish I was that person, okay? Maybe one day I will be. Every day I wake up at 5 a.m. Every day from you see like the videos that have like even the timestamps from 5:01 to 5:06 I take my supplements from 5 I go and do it's like every day I would get so bored. As somebody with ADHD, you will not catch me doing the same thing every day. And that would just make me depressed. Okay, so at the worst of my mental illness, when I was really struggling with it, and which was probably triggering my ADHD and, messing that up, I would get really frustrated with myself because I wanted to be a consistent person. I wanted to do things every day, and I just couldn't do it every single day because some days, you know, I was tired. Some days it wasn't interesting to me. Some days I was just having a bad mental health day and I couldn't get up to do that thing. And I would just get so frustrated with myself. And I still, like, honestly, I still don't wake up every day and have the same routine every day. And I would still consider myself a disciplined or consistent person. But, okay, but when I found things that genuinely sparked joy and were essential to me, my values, I started building tendencies around them. And it stopped me from giving up when I dropped off from time to time. If you have ADHD or anybody, like, that sometimes you really get on, like, you'll be doing it, like, I'm doing it every day, I'm really getting it done. Then something happens, I don't know, you get bored or, something sort of triggers you, and you just stop doing it for a while or you just don't do it for a day. And I think that if you have, especially I think people with ADHD, you feel like, I don't know, you when you lose that streak or and you feel like you failed, you're gonna, like, a lot of times you end up dropping it or you end up feeling like, oh, like it just stops happening. Okay, and then I think that a lot of people, my friends also with ADHD, they'll go into something making a really big plan about, like, they're gonna do this and, like, it's gonna be this crazy new routine and they're gonna do it every day, it's gonna change their life, and then they don't do it for, like, after like 2 days, and then they don't do it for the longest time because they feel stupid. It was too ambitious. You know what I mean? It was like, I think that, but I think when you can, say, like, I didn't do it for 2 days, but I'm gonna do it again today even though I didn't keep the streak. I think streak is my worst enemy. If something, I will never, I only have one streak in my life, and that's I listen to a podcast episode every day because I like it. But that's the only streak I keep. I'm not gonna care about keeping. I gave up on streaks. Duolingo streak. I don't even use Snapchat. Snapchat streak. You will not catch me trying to keep a streak because you're setting yourself up for failure. Because when you break that streak, you're gonna hate yourself. And I think that when I lose my streak now, I just think, that's okay. Like, I have a general tendency to do this thing. And because I'm not beating myself up about it, I can focus on the fact that I enjoy it and that I wanted to do it in the first place. So I'm going to go back to it. And I might not go back to it for like a few days or weeks. I don't care. But it's going to happen. I don't drink. For example, some people, they like to make their wellness shots every morning. Ginger. Every once in a while, I'll make ginger shots. And I'll have it for a few days. Done. Every once in a while, I'll make green juice. I don't need to make green juice every morning to be a healthy person. But this is the thing, is that if something is good for you, if you do it, everyone, like, if you do it over, like, oh, sometimes, overall, it is better for you than not doing it at all. Drinking green juice sometimes is better than, it's good for me. That means that I have a tendency to be healthy, Or, for example, let's say you take your I even have this mentality with my supplements. I know you should take supplements every day. If I don't take, let's say sometimes I have collagen. Right now I don't have collagen. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, my body's going to fall apart because I ran out of my collagen supplement. I can't buy it right now. Sometimes I have collagen and I put it in my hot chocolate. It's probably good for me. Probably if I did it every day, I'd see better results, okay? But I have collagen sometimes and it's probably better for me than never having collagen. Great. You did something. You got something from that versus just feeling like you need to do it every day or you suck and you're going to stop, okay? And I think that it's good. I think as someone with ADHD, it's nice for me to have the mentality of if I want to do those things, they're available to me. I have art supplies. I do not need to make art every day. Sometimes I make art and it's fun. It's a vibe. I enjoy it. I have lots of interesting books. Do I need to read my books every single day? I do not. I like to flip through my books sometimes. It's good to have casual things that you just do from time to time. It's enjoyable. You don't need to treat everything like it's your job, okay? And I think even this is controversial, but I did not force myself to be strict with the gym at first. I have had an overall fitness like tendency for years. I used to do home workouts, like I just did them in my room. And then I started going to the gym, but then life would happen and I would stop being able to go to the gym. And I think that this was my luck of having witnessed other people face this dilemma, where if you think now I suck and I need to go to the gym every day, I need to do it then you're not going to go back to the gym. I dropped off sometimes because of life, sometimes because of burnout, and sometimes I was tired. I just thought, I'm just not going to go to the gym today. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to lose my gains. If I do, I'm going to go back. And because of that, I've never stopped wanting to go to gym. I've never stopped enjoying going to the gym because it's not been forced upon me. It's an interesting thing that I can do. I want to do. So now, because life aligned for it, my life got together and I wanted to go to the gym. I have a gym close by. Now I do go 3 times a week. Most weeks I go 3 times a week. And so it's great because now I have the consistency and I never built a resentful relationship to the gym. And I think that a lot of people with ADHD, you stop trusting yourself and you start to think, I just suck, I can't build consistency. And because of that, you don't let yourself build tendencies because it's like it's all or nothing because you don't trust yourself to go back to things. You think that you're going to drop off if you don't do it. But if you can start developing self-trust and think, I trust that eventually I will go back to my exercise routine and it might not look the same, it might look different. That's okay. If you have an overall tendency to be fit, that is great. You don't have to do it all the time. And yeah, so I think that so if you are wanting the feeling of consistency, or if you're wanting the benefits of good habits, set yourself up to complete it by just building a tendency. And then you think, I have a tendency to be that person. And it starts to become an identity. And once something is your identity, you're not going to drop it. Okay. If something is something you might incorporate into your identity, you could drop it. But if something is your identity and you have a tendency to do it, you will go back to it no matter, even if like time goes by. This was the most important part for me personally as someone with like inattentive ADHD. Like like I said, I was always a daydreamer. I love daydreaming. I love coming up with little fantasies for myself, and a lot of times those fantasies have occurred. Like I always used to imagine myself playing in a band. At one point I played in a band. So it's good to have these little visual, like I always was a daydreamer, okay? But sometimes it got to the point where it's like you need to stop daydreaming and get to work. Now, I channeled that power. If you're looking at something, you have to look at parts of your ADHD and be like, that is a potential superpower for me. And if I tap into it, I could really succeed. And for me, that came about through manifestation, yeah, visualization. Okay, I visualize every single day because it's just fun and I enjoy it, but it's also like been the thing to make me a consistent person because every day I visualize myself winning, achieving, completing my habits. And I visualized through writing. I wrote down when I was living at the hostel as a volunteer, I wrote down my ideal day and when I got a flat, and I do actually live my life like that, which is cool. These are the the meditations that I use like a lot of the time. Um, and they're really fun because they basically just guide you through like visualizing your ideal life and how you're gonna feel in your ideal life. And the feeling is the key. You gotta feel yourself doing it. And I visualize myself, yeah, I visualize myself winning, achieving things that I want to achieve in my life, or even just I visualize myself doing the habits that I want to do and living that life that I want. And I think doing this daily visualization for me, it was fun and it was like good, like kind of like a fun thing for my ADHD because that's how I work. But I think it's good because as you visualize consistently, you start to hone in on what you naturally hear about every single day and what your mind continues to drift back to. I have some daydreams, I daydream it all the time, like achievements that I want in my life. And I'm like every time I do this like this not every time, a lot of times when I do this meditation, I want to come back to this particular daydream. And then that just shows me like that's really clearly important to me. And I think just having it in my mind every day makes me start to like people say like people who are like top athletes and stuff, they visualize themselves like making the winning shot and all that. I've read that before. And I think that it's good to just consistently remind yourself. I think it's just a daily reminder. It tells me why I'm doing what I'm doing, so I never like I think that even when something is really really hard work and I don't really feel like doing it, I will do it still because it feels like part of my story. It feels like it's getting me there and it's fun, you know? I think it's just fun to have that fantasy and to keep like achieving it. And then it's also I think if you're someone with ADHD and sometimes you drop off for things and you get hyperfixations, you drop them, it's just good because it just shows me like what is like my ideal image of things that I'm interested in. And I visualize different things. Sometimes I'll visualize things that have nothing to do with my life. One day I do want to go mountain biking. I've been watching the videos. I want to do that when I was a kid. You know, I'll do it one day, maybe, probably. Like, just little things. Sometimes I do just visualize myself having fun, but I think most of the time I have specific things that I want, and then it starts to get you focused because you're like, okay, this is what I thought about this morning, and it's important to me. And if you never think about it again, it's like it's a cool visualization, and maybe one day it'll happen for you, but it's not something that you need to think about right now. Like you have the core things that you're interested in, and you're just like, let me just go after that. And one day, like I don't need to think about the other stuff that are kind of just like cool stuff that drifts through my mind. Um, and I think that's the key to consistency is just visualizing every day, like what is the most important, pertinent thing of like life things you want to get done. So yeah, it's good to get also even like just outside of the meditations, it's just good to get inspired. I go on Pinterest all the time, find images that resonate for you, things that don't even, and your life doesn't have to look just like the pictures. But for example, when I have extra money to spend nowadays, I always know what I'm gonna buy because I've already been visualizing it for so long on Pinterest and like it's been good for my financial habits because I never spend on just like very rarely do I spend on random things. Now I have my visualizations and I want to manifest my life, my ideal life. So if I'm gonna have the money, I'm gonna get the thing that I'm manifesting. So I think manifestation has been great for me in terms of my specific like type of ADHD. Um, and yeah, I think it also just connects me to my sense of like fun and childlike wonder because I always just enjoy seeing like being like, oh, my visualizations came to life, and I like the imagining and just feeling how it would feel to live my ideal life. So I think it's just great, and I think like I just go into the world excited, like to see that like what's gonna come to life today. What can I find? Like it feels exciting when I go out and like I found that exact. I had Uggs on my Pinterest board for the longest time, and then I went out to a charity shop and I found like a pair of Uggs for 10 pounds, which I had in one of my other videos. But it's just fun. Like it's just fun to see. It keeps me focused because it tells me what I'm looking for. Like it just shows me what I'm seeking in my day, and I think that that's been like important to me. And it's good because it's also elevated me in the sense of like it's allowed me to tap into like higher goals and just things that are like just see myself winning. I think that's really important to just see yourself winning, see yourself as a disciplined person, know what it would feel like is great. Yeah, I think go visualize. Okay, so I think you also there's a big shadow work element to becoming a disciplined person because it is a self-love journey, and I think your self-love journey is always going to require some shadow work, and that means sort of peering into what makes you tick, why you are the way that you are, and maybe finding out what's stopping you from becoming the person that you see that you want to be. And it took me a lot of shadow work to get to this point in my life where I could be a disciplined person. So that came about in two ways. I think the first thing is that you do need to, sometimes you will need to redefine what productivity is to you to see yourself as a productive person. So I was extremely mentally ill through college because of a traumatic experience that just lasted like all of my university like time, and I was really sick, but on the inside, but I did not take a break. I did not take a semester off, anything, because I just didn't want to lose my momentum. I wanted to stay with my friends. I didn't want my degree to last longer than 4 years. And so even though I was working really hard because of my symptoms, I fell behind really often. I was always having to ask for extensions and all these things, and I'd take a lot of breaks because how my mind and body were feeling. Like sometimes I didn't have the stamina to keep going through an assignment. And so I felt like I wasn't really producing like my peers, okay? And I think because I wasn't keeping up with 5 Ivy League classes easily, and also dealing with my mental health and all this, I felt like I was undisciplined and lazy because I couldn't produce to the same level as other people. And I think that had I not maybe had this mental illness in the way, and I had just gotten my ADHD diagnosis at 19 and gotten on Adderall, which I did for a period of time, probably would have been fine, but I had this extra sort of heavy weight on my mind, and it sort of hampered my ability to be, the student I wanted to be. And I think that when I left college, I was just overworking myself to the bone to this day. Left college, meaning last week, 2 weeks ago. But I think I never really undid the habit. So when I'm just working, when I'm not like at work and I'm at home, like I'm like wanting to do extra work. Like I'm like, I have a class that I paid to do. I want to do all this extra reading I started doing, and it's stuff really aligned with my visualization, things that I want, and I am doing it. But I'm feeling I'm sitting there because I'm not doing the extra work on top of my work that I forced upon myself, that I chose to do. I'm sitting there calling myself lazy and undisciplined and being like, you should be done with that already. There's no deadline, but I'm making the deadline, and I'm calling myself lazy and undisciplined for not being able to keep up. And it's like, I think at a certain point, you need to notice that you are the one creating the story, okay? And, you need to sort of start seeking out the signs of consistency and hard work you are already exhibiting, and realizing when you're stuck in the mentality of working towards productivity and working towards being a productive person means forcing yourself to constantly produce or constantly work harder. That is not true productivity. That's not true discipline. And sometimes calling myself out, it's a cycle of self-worth, of low self-worth, because you're feeling like you're not enough. You're feeling like you need to I need to be normal. I need to be like other people, like everybody in my life, everybody else is better than me and they're all working harder than me, and I'm just behind. And like, I think sometimes you just need to stop and you need to hand it to yourself and be like, damn, I'm working hard. I'm doing it. Like, I'm getting there. And just because you're not getting there as fast as you want, or you're not, you're seeing yourself as behind other people, it does not mean that you're not showing up every day. And I think sometimes you need to stop and redefine what productivity means to you. And, I'm already a disciplined person. I'm already, and I'm sitting there feeling like I'm not, because I'm stuck in a cycle of seeing myself as an unproductive person. So I keep adding things that I need to do to be productive, So I think that, I think especially if you are, like, you have a chronic illness, you're neurodivergent, etc., I think it's really important that you take the time to redefine productivity for yourself, and you have an idea of what that means to you, and you set that boundary for yourself of, this is what it means for me to say I am productive, and you do not need to go further than that. You need to cap it, okay? I think that anything, you need to be able to see when you are overworking and doing too much. Coming back in the morning as I edit this in my PJs to say that I think that the reason that sometimes the advice that you see on those in those really intense self-help books is not great. Um, if you're like, I don't know, if you're neurodivergent, you have a chronic illness, it's there's so much obsession with optimizing your results and optimizing for peak productivity. But peak productivity, you don't need to be at peak productivity all the time to just get your goals done. And a little bit, it's a little bit like, if you're not owning a multi-million dollar company or something like that, you don't need to be doing all of that. Okay, I think that just overall, I think if it's about living a good life for yourself, you don't need to be at peak productivity for, like, I don't know, your health journey. Like, there's just, I think that's sort of like the switch that I'm talking about here in the advice, like, just stop trying to aim for peak. I got maximum amount of work done, but sometimes you're working so much that it's not even really benefiting you and you're just working to work. And the thing is that the people who are writing these books are extremely successful people who probably are like CEOs writing, owning these multi-million dollar companies. And, you know, so if that's your path and you're trying to get to where they get, I mean, I think they probably give very valid advice for their field. But I think that the rest of us who are not necessarily, I don't care to own $1 million company. I got my own high goals to achieve, but that have nothing to do with that. And I think that the rest of us who do not have that as a goal, we sort of read this content, or you know just like inhale this content about what it looks like to be a successful person, and it's like it doesn't need to be that for you, and you're going to try to kill yourself trying to live your life like you're owning a multi-billion dollar company when you're not, and maybe you don't even care to or want to. And like the productivity tips are maybe for that, and I think that that's why I think that we on in your personal life, like maybe change your metric of success. And I think that also, from my mom always tells this little story. I'm gonna butcher it, okay? But it's something like this. It's like there's two fishermen, and they're both fishing at the water, and one of them is like, I'm gonna catch as many fish as I can to sell them all to be relaxed and happy and live a good life. And then who's the other fisherman, who's just like a poor fisherman fishing, he says, I already have all of that and I'm not even selling the fish. Okay, that's a very bad version of the story my mom tells me. It's like a Brazilian little story. I don't know. But I think like that's sort of like the thing is that, and this manifestation taught me this, okay, but I think sometimes we are seeking out a feeling that you can already have in your life, and making ourselves miserable trying to meet a goal that other people have set, people in a different kind of field, or some people just are into productivity as like a hobby almost. But not I don't care. I just want to get my goals. I want to get what I care to get done. I don't want to kill myself doing it. So I think that it's just maybe about making that switch and changing the sort of content that you're incorporating into your life to reach your goal. And my goal is just to relax. I'm so stressed, guys. I'm so stressed. I just want to relax, and like I feel like that's my goal. So yeah, that's kind of like my thinking. And I think because of the shame that I felt about my ADHD, I end up going above and beyond what I need to do, because I'm seeing myself I'm ranking my work as lower. And I think that that is one of the things that is important about shadow work, is that you need to start noticing these elements in yourself. And I think that's also like collective shadow work sort of thing here, that I think that we need to get the capitalism out of our mentality, and seeing that sometimes what we're seeking is not building a good life for ourselves, but being workers that get the approval of our boss. We're working harder than everyone in the office, or being good consumers. Now I bought all the right things for the right aesthetic, so I'm a productive person. Or I think that so that we can be approved by others, and it stops being about building a good life for ourselves. And I think that's why we have to see discipline as a self-love journey. Okay, it should be an act of self-love about how to create a good life for yourself that you will not give up on, not giving up on yourself. And I think we should be seeing it as radical self-love. I'm going to try to include a quote. I definitely read somewhere here about radical self-care. That's the phrase. And I think that consistency is radical self-care. And I think that, like any kind of self-care, self-love, discipline should feel pleasurable. Okay, go read Pleasure Activism. It should feel pleasurable. It should not be about punishing yourselves. Imagine if you woke up every day and there was someone in your life, and maybe some of you have dealt with this, someone in your life punishing you every day. Every day you wake up, they're brutally attacking you with their words. They're forcing you out of bed. They're not letting you sleep. Imagine, you are going to feel lifeless. And just because you are you and you're not another person does not mean the effect will not be the same. You will end up lifeless. You will end up feeling broken. It is, you do not need to wake up every day and punish yourself. And I think the mentality of, we need to get up and force ourselves, force yourself out of bed, force yourself to go to the gym and do all this. Stop. Do not punish yourself, and just make it pleasurable, make it enjoyable. There's no reason why everything in our life should not be pleasurable. Again, go read Pleasure Activism. There's no reason why everything in our life should not be pleasurable, okay? It should be pleasurable to be disciplined. Who is telling you that you need to be hating yourself for a portion of the day to be a good person, or to be a person that produces good things? You do not need to do that. It is not right. And I think it's a very masculine sort of like Spartan Roman mentality of like, we need to like be warriors and like get up and go do all these disciplined things. Discipline is fun. It is fun every day. I love going to the gym. It's so much fun, bro. I love it. I love getting my tea. I love drinking my tea every day. It makes me happy every single time that I do it. I absolutely love it. When I take my little black seed oil with honey, I fell off with that. I need to go back to it. It is so fun. Like, I love it. It's fun. Make it fun. Make it pleasurable. Do not punish yourself. If you are punishing yourself, you are probably doing the wrong activity, or you need to do some shadow work. Okay? Go do it. And yeah, and I think like, what is your discipline for it? And how do we stop it from being an issue of just not enoughness? And I think the last little bit about shadow work is that I think that I had to sit, like, part of the reason that I found myself unable to sit still and finish massive amounts of work when I was at college, other than the fact that it's massive amounts of work, is that I was sick, okay? I had trauma. And I think when it was hard for me to sit down, I wanted to float around, go on 10,000 walks, go to the store 24/7, because I was grieving and I've had heavy emotions. And when you sit down, it's hard to focus, and it's hard to like, it's hard when you sit down and you just have all of these things. Even though I wasn't even conscious of them all the time, my mind was racing with emotions and feelings that I needed to sit down and grieve and feel. And I think that like, sometimes it's just a matter of sitting with yourself and being like, why are you, when you're sitting down, why are you feeling afraid? Why are you feeling upset? Why are you feeling like, you can't do it? Feeling like, sometimes it could be perfectionism. It could be a fear of failure, that you sit down and you're like, subconsciously, I'm afraid to fail at whatever it is I'm doing, so I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to go walk around. And I think that this is also important for people with ADHD. Sometimes it's our fear of failure that's getting in the way. Sometimes it's our fear that we're not going to make it, or self-sabotage. Now I'm sitting here and I have the time and I have the motivation, but I'm not good enough. I'm not going to keep up with it. So why do I even start? Why should I even start and try? Sometimes you just need to grieve. And I think that as I started grieving my emotions and I started sitting with myself and all the things I was afraid of, it became joyful again to sit down and work, because work should be enjoyable. It should be an enjoyable process. And I think that like, if it's not, you might need to find another line of work, maybe. Or like, I think that it's just, we have just conditioned ourselves to think that work should be suffering. And why should you choose something that's going to make you suffer day in and day out? Sometimes it's a matter of necessity, but I think that you should be creating environments that make the work enjoyable for you, even if it's work that you hate. It doesn't mean that everything you do, you're going to feel like happy-go-lucky. Yesterday, I was at the gym, forced myself to do an exercise. I didn't want to be there, okay, at first. But I was like, just go and do it, and then I enjoyed it. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to have those, like, important talks with yourself of, like, I know that you hate this. I know it's not what you want to do, but you got to go do it. But I think in the long run, it should be joyful, because even when I don't necessarily want to wake up and go to my research study or something, I love psychology. I love the career that I'm in. I love what I'm building for myself. I love my potential. So I'm going to wake up even though like I don't want to be there, I'm going to wake up and go there because I absolutely love psychology. Okay? And I think that that's the thing, is that even though in the short run you're not going to necessarily love everything you're doing, but in the long term, it's like if you don't not loving the direction that you're going in, change it. Find something that you can change. But in the long run, you should be like, even though I hate, I don't want to do an ab workout. Like, who wants to do an ab workout? They suck, okay? I don't enjoy them that much. But I love that I'm here. I love that I'm trying. Like, I love that I'm moving my body. I love that, it's making me feel healthy. Like, I love that. And I think that that's the important part to unlock. It's like, you should not be hating every second of what you're doing. And, like, you should have a sense of joy and a sense of upward movement of, I'm going somewhere with this. And it should not be about hating yourself. It should not be, I'm gonna wake up and do this every day because you should feel joyful about the long run. And if you're not feeling joyful, stop. Do shadow work. Figure out what you like and do that. You not need to. If you hate the gym, valid, okay? Go to a dance class. Dancing is movement. That's great too. If you are doing, that's why you cannot. I feel like I don't go. I was talking about this with a friend. I do not go to the gym because I'm trying to achieve a specific look, even, okay? I do have a look I want, but it's like I'm going because I have to enjoy it, okay? If you do not like what you are doing, you need to find a different way to achieve the same result. I think that's what's important, is to just see it as like it's gonna be like in movement, okay? You're gonna go through fluctuations in your discipline, your self-love journey, and finding yourself, and you need to find like things that interest you and that fill your life, make your life feel full, make your life feel abundant and joyful. If it's feeling like the, what's it called, like the guy from like Psycho or whatever, where he's waking up and he's like serial killer and he's doing his space care routine. Some people on the internet starting to look like that. No offense. Stop. So those are my big tips. I think this is what made me feel good in my consistency and my discipline. And I think that I am a creative person. Sometimes the coldness of discipline felt like it was like kind of against who I was, but it's not against who you are. Like, you can make it creative and you can make it fun, cool, you can make it artsy, you can make it like silly. It's fun. It's fun. Like, just go out and have fun and just find cool things that you like. It's just about finding cool things that you like and that you're gonna want to do, just filling your life with those things. Like, I think everybody wants to be a consistent person. Everybody wants to be disciplined. Everybody can be a disciplined and consistent person if you just don't beat yourself up 24/7, think you have to do the same thing every day, and just bully yourself into being disciplined. That's my mentality, but things that I wish people had told me in the past. So I'm telling you. So the end. Okay, I'm done.